Welcome to Target Market Insights, the multifamily and marketing podcast. Each week, John Kasman interviews multifamily and marketing experts to teach you how to find the best places to invest, attract investors, and grow your portfolio. You are listening to Target Market Insights with your host, John Kasman.
Welcome to Target Market Insights, the multifamily and marketing show. I'm your host, John Kasman, and I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. Now, look, if you are enjoying the show, you're an avid listener of the show, I need you to do me a quick favor and leave us a 5-star rating and review. You can leave whatever rating you want, actually, but leave us a rating and review. Let me know what you love about the show and what you want to learn more about, who you want to hear from next. I'll be happy to get that kind of feedback to keep making the show as strong and powerful for you and your business as possible. And if you are a new listener, thank you for checking us out. And make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Now, today we're going to be talking to Stace Caseria. Stace Caseria has over 2 decades of branding and marketing experience creating brands built on real trust. He enables businesses to create long-lasting loyalty and command price premiums, and he's an active and passive real estate investor with properties in the U.S. Southeast and Northeast regions. Let's welcome to the show, Stace Caseria.
Hey man, I'm happy to be here. I'm excited for what we got going on.
Hey, Stace, listen, man, I love your background because, first of all, you're a man in marketing and advertising where I spent the first 15 years of my career, and you're a real estate investor where I am now. So, I mean, I feel like you are my Northeastern brother from another mother. But please, for our listeners, give us a little bit more context on your background.
Sure, absolutely. So I started working in advertising about the same time I started investing in real estate, which was late 90s. And I pursued my advertising career much more so than my real estate career because I invested, I dabbled a little bit, and then I sort of put it aside and I didn't pick it up again until a few years later. But in that time, I've been working at digital advertising agencies, branding agencies, and a few years ago started my own agency called Trust Deep. So I'm trying to always merge the two things that I love real estate and I love branding, and seeing how I can make the two help each other.
Man, I love it. Listen, it's something I think is much needed. You know, as we were kind of talking about before we hit record, I don't think enough real estate investors really understand the power of branding, of marketing, advertising, and really what it takes to take your business to the next level. You know, for a lot of people, I get it. This is a side hustle. Maybe it's a hobby. Maybe it's something where you just want to raise money for a deal you have in your mind. But if you really want to make a business out of this, something that can last, where you can hire a team and create the real freedom we want, not just financial freedom, but time freedom, location freedom, all those other things, you really have to build a business with systems and processes, and marketing plays a major role in that. Can you elaborate a little bit more as far as the way you see the real estate business and kind of what you see from most real estate investors?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a great setup. So something that I see, and you mentioned the H word, hobby, and I see a lot of investors managing their investments like hobbies, and they don't, like, I was thinking, like, if somebody owned a shoe store, I mean, would they manage it as like a hobby or a business? If somebody, had a car repair place, a business or hobby, There are ways that we look at how a business operates that many real estate investors say, oh, I don't necessarily need to do that. But one of the main things I see is the way that they think of their customers. Like, businesses don't exist without a customer. So the customer is your tenant. And too often, we were joking about this before you started recording, is how a lot of investors see their tenants as the necessary evil. And I take a different mindset completely. I'm like, these are my customers. And while they have different needs than if I owned a shoe store or a gas station or anything like that, or a coffee shop, I need to take care of those customers, because I don't want short-term customers. I want long-term customers. The type of investing I do, I don't do short-term rental, but I want people to live in my buildings for a long time. I mean, forever would be fantastic. I would never try and push them out, but I'm always going to try and say, how can I apply customer service processes or theories that we use in other businesses? How do I apply those to these people and treat them like the engines of my growth. 'Cause that's how it's going to happen. Um, but that's like a main thing that I see.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think you nailed it, right? I mean, it's something that I've seen as well, especially from folks who have more of a tenured history as landlords or property owners, right? Because they there's a sense of entitlement almost
Mm.
when it comes to the way they operate, and like you said, I mean, there's this is one of the few businesses or industries where the person who pays the customers are almost completely disrespected by a lot of people. And I mean, this is the reason you have such negative, emotions on the other side, where you've got this cancel rent group, and
Mhm.
you have people who hate landlords. And I think a lot of this is because people look at it almost like a complete dictatorship, and we don't treat people, and then I'm saying just in general, they're not treated as customers, as people. And I
Yeah.
think that sometimes that's the wrong way to go about it, especially when times get hard, where,
Mhm.
it does become a little bit harder to retain good quality residents, where maybe you're not able to push rents quite as much. So you have to focus on some other things.
Right.
But what are you seeing? I mean, with COVID and so many other things, have you seen more and more investors starting to at least open up their mindset to being more business focused, or is it still kind of the same old thing as far as, I'm the landlord, you're the tenant, pay me rent on the first, or I'm throwing
Yeah.
your ass out?
Right. Yeah. There has been a shift that I've seen, and I wouldn't say that this is a rule. Just this is just me, right? And stuff that I've seen, people that I've talked to, but I am surprised that there has been as much leniency as I've seen. I think that's because we all see the state of this. We're all just as affected, right? So even if you haven't lost your job, you understand job loss is a real thing, and even if you haven't been sick, you understand there are people who are getting sick or worse. So I think we get this idea of this shared experience. It's like we're all in the same boat. Um, I think one of the things that makes it difficult for landlords to sort of see their tenants as customers is the nature of our business. So we're not. This isn't a restaurant where somebody comes and eats here and then leaves, and we have this building, and this is ours, and this is our table, and this is our menu, and these are our lights, or whatever it is. Somebody lives in our property and they think it's their home, and they should really believe it's their home. There is a friction though that I see between tenants and landlords and their mindset, or the mindset of the landlord, where they're like, oh no, this is my place and they're here temporarily. But if you flip that around and think about somebody who's renting there, that's their home. If you were to say, like, you get kicked out of a restaurant or a bar or something, you go somewhere else, you kick somebody out of their home, they've got to like make life changing shift to go and find another place to live, where their mail's going to get delivered, where their kids are going to play. I mean, it's like where people live is incredibly personal, and that I think is a source of tension for people. We just have to like shift the mindset and say, you know what, you're living in this building, and these four walls are your home. It's not your building. But I actually like when my tenants sort of take that ownership. Like I was having like an argument with one tenant about like the way the landscaping was, because he wanted a certain kind of flower or something like that planted. And at a certain point, I realized, I'm like, this guy taking this level of ownership, that's awesome, because he wants to stay here. He cares about this. At the end of the day, I leave. He stays there. I don't care what's planted there. So, I mean, if it makes him happy, if it makes him stay, if it's within bounds, right? I mean, it's like changing that mindset to say, like you started off talking about COVID. It's just understanding like we're all humans, and understanding like the needs that we have, those emotional needs. Like right now we have functional and emotional needs about our housing. You just got to recognize those things and support those things. That's how businesses build long-term customer trust and trustworthiness.
Yeah, listen, I love the way you kind of frame that, in particular with the restaurant analogy, right? Because to your point, yeah, I go to a restaurant. We all know this is a temporary thing. I'm here for an hour, maybe an hour and a half at
Yeah.
most, and then I'm going home, right? But my house where I live is where I live. And whether I'm renting, whether I own it, whether it's temporary, I mean, if I
Yeah.
live there, I live there. And that's the only sanctuary I have. And I think with COVID, we've seen more and more people being restricted to just their home.
Yeah.
So that's a place where they needed to, to be welcoming, to be a place where they feel safe and it's their space. So for landlords that don't recognize that level of depth from a psychological standpoint, you're not even on the same playing field. I mean, most of these people do not want to leave, assuming that you've given a quality housing
Right.
or quality unit. But most of these people see this as their home. And I think as landlords, if you understand that, if you come with that level of respect, you're going to get met with that level of respect, right? And I think that it makes doing business so much easier. And quite frankly, it's going to make it way more profitable because you're going to have less unit turns, you're going to have easier relationships. And even when, to your point about, whether it be taking over landscaping or fixing things. I mean, you have some residents who start fixing stuff. I mean, I had a resident who wanted to relay tile in like the little back enclosed deck area. And I was like, that's going to cost like $400. And I'm like, you sure you want to do that? And they're like, yeah, no, I just want to. And I was like, and my wife's like, should we give her money for that? I'm like, I don't know. So I'm like, I don't know if she really wants to do it. I mean, we should probably just take something off her rent or something. But anyway,
No, don't
to
do
your
that.
point,
Don't do that.
No, right? We
Well, give her,
argued about it.
give her like,
We did
yeah, give her
nothing.
like
We
a
didn't do
house plant.
anything. But
Okay.
we didn't do anything. But I was like, hey, I got to see the quality of craftsmanship here first. But
Yeah.
but look, one of the things I think we're getting at, right, is it's really the relationship. We talked about the relationship between the landlord and the resident, and you mentioned kind of your experience in real estate as well as your experience in the marketing world. Your agency is called Deep Trust, or Trust Deep, excuse me. Trust Deep.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to name your agency Trust Deep?
Yeah, that's a good question. We get that a lot. So I see three basic levels to every relationship in your life, whether it's personal, professional, with your family, your friends, your spouse, wife, whatever it is. The three basic levels are people know you, people like you, and people trust you. And I think of it as this metaphor, like so liking or knowing somebody starts at the head, knowing somebody starts in the heart, but trusting somebody goes down to the gut. So trust deep relationships. That's what we aim to focus on. Like, so it's a way of describing how tight you are with somebody. Like how deep is your relationship? It's trust deep. Like how tight are we? We are trust deep. So we focus on helping our clients build genuine trustworthiness through their actions, through their communications, through their branding. That's what we focus on. So we just name the agency that, and so we're going all in on trust. We're not here to make people like you or love you even. We want them to trust you, because once they get to trust, all those other things are checked off. Trust builds lifetime customers.
Yeah, and I think ultimately that's what we're talking about, right? Is like no matter what your business is, if your clients, customers, investors, if they trust you, they're going to be willing to do business with you and to be willing to focus on the opportunities that you have to present over your competitors or over other options. So, help me understand kind of the way you approach earning that level of trust to the point where it goes beyond the head, beyond the heart, down into the gut.
Yeah. So we have this thing we call the trust dynamic, and it's made up of four parts. It's like these are the four components of trust, and this is what we believe, right? So there might be other ways to think about this, because trust is like sort of this like magical thing that people don't know. Like, how do you make it? How is it earned? Like, can it be remade after it's destroyed? And like, we don't necessarily talk about it, but we have four parts to the trust dynamic, and they are credibility, track record, empathy, and alignment of interests. And they all stand for different parts of like what's happening in a relationship or a communication. And I can break those down if you'd like, if you want to hear what each of those are.
I do. But real quick, you spent time in corporate America, right?
Oh yeah, too much time.
How did you do this and not make an acronym? Right, you got four things, and these don't spell into an acronym. CT. What is CT?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I got to do that. I got to come up with an acronym that says something like, I don't know. All right, I got you. That's good. I'm not military either. Military people are worse.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Corporate and military. It's like you can't. Anytime there's a list of three or more, there's an acronym, right? You got to have an acronym. This is our team approach. TEAM. So you got TEA. So I just.
No, but that's so the four things, and these fluctuate in proportion depending on the situation. Obviously the trust you need to buy something from somebody like your uh, a cell phone versus buying like investing 100 grand in an apartment building. Two different levels of trust. Trusting somebody to marry them versus trusting somebody to water your plants. Two different levels of trust. But the four components are credibility, and credibility is your ability to speak authoritatively or knowledgeably about a topic. So you can build credibility instantly. The second you talk to somebody, you're at a real estate meetup and you go up and you start talking to somebody says, "Hey, what do you do?" In the first 30 seconds, they can tell whether you know what you're talking about or not, whether you're, somebody who they want to learn more about that topic from or not. Credibility also includes your integrity. Integrity is how closely aligned your values are with your actions. So there are people who say one thing and do another thing. They lose integrity. They lose credibility. So credibility is something that can be created quickly. The second phase or the second component is track record. People think trust takes a long time to develop, and only certain pieces of it do. Track record is one of those things. Track record is something like a promise from the past happening again in the future. Like, I've done this type of deal. I've had this type of return. How likely is it that I'm going to be able to make this happen again? Do people in this region or the city know me? I mean, did I show up from nowhere? I mean, like, I'm not going to have track record. People who are at their first deal have very little track record. But I always say to people, you can borrow track record either from the people that you're working with, people who know you and trust you, or from something else that you've done in your life. So you said you it sounds like the last 5 years you've been in real estate. Before that, you were in corporate America. So people know you from corporate America. So, on LinkedIn, I see this like where people are starting to try something new, and you see people like from their past saying, "Oh, hey, Jim, it was great working with you wherever we worked." I mean, it's like, okay, so you can see how track record plays a part, and you can borrow track record from your past, even if you don't have track record in the thing you're doing right now. But it is incredibly important for us to know that the future is going to look like the past. We want to see some predictability there. It gives us, or it reduces our anxiety. The third factor is called empathy. And empathy, a lot of people talk about empathy. Unfortunately, many people in business and even in real estate will dismiss empathy as like the soft skill that has no place in business. The truth is, it is the quickest way to build trust through empathy. And empathy is just your ability to be human, your ability to relate to other people, your ability to listen to people, your ability to treat them like human beings and understand that they are very similar to you. They have emotional needs just like you do. And for you to listening to people doesn't mean you agree with them. I know like right now there's a lot of like political tension. If like people just from both sides just listen to each other, because like you don't have to agree with somebody to listen to. I want to hear what you have to say. Okay, now I understand where you're coming from. I don't agree with you, but at least I understand why you did what you did or said what you did. Empathy is huge in business, and it's like I said, it's the quickest way to build trust, and it's really simple. You just like shut up and listen, and you ask people, what do you need out of this deal? And listen to their response and try to use that in your actions. Like whatever you're going to do going forward, you use the information you got from them, and you may not be able to do what they want to do. That's like the fourth part. It's called alignment of interests. And so alignment of interest is me and you having the same idea of the outcome and our method to get there. So we might be going into a deal together, and you're like, "Hey, Stace, I've got this building under contract. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to sell it in 5 years. We're going to get like an IRR of 20%. I'm like, "Oh, that sounds fantastic," because that's exactly what I wanted, John. We talked about this. We both want that. So we both have the same goal. And then I say, "But we can cut some corners, right? And we can do this, and we might be able to get 21%. And you're like, "No, I don't like your method and my method aren't lining up. So we don't have an alignment of interest. We might want the same goal, but how we're going to get there is different." So those are the four factors we use in our clients' marketing. And we advise them how their employees should work, how they should engage with customers. We're doing a project right now with a restaurant chain here outside of Boston. where it's going beyond marketing. And we're talking about this is how your employees should operate. And they're like, okay, so what does this have to do with branding? I'm like, the whole thing's a brand. Everything is your brand. Not just your communications, not your logo, not your website. All the things are extensions or expressions of your brand. But like your business strategy is part of your brand. Like brand has to happen first. You have to you define a vision. Everything comes from that. Sorry,
I
that's
love
a
it,
lot.
man. No, I'm taking notes because I love what you just said. I wanted to make sure I didn't forget that or lose it.
Yeah.
I want to recap what you talked about with trust, right? And building trust. The first thing you said was credibility. The second one was your track record. The third is empathy. And then the fourth is alignment of interest. Just real quick on the empathy piece. I mean, you're so spot on. I mean, a lot of people just dismiss it. And I think whenever you are interacting with people, if you think about customer service as an entire department,
Mm-hmm.
that entire department's job is to just show empathy for whatever the other person is saying, right? It doesn't mean you're going to get your money back. It doesn't
Correct.
mean anything other than, hey, I hear what you're saying. I understand how that could be frustrating. You know what I mean? It's just really taking in, whether it's political, whether it's investing wise.
Yeah.
And if you are going to work with other people, whether it be a broker, whether it be partners, whether it be investors, you need to have empathy. You need to understand the lens that they're using when they're looking at deals and opportunities, or if they're frustrated. If you can't see that, you're going to have a really hard time
Right.
from a longevity standpoint in the business. So really great point there with empathy, as well as alignment of interest there.
Yeah.
I love the last thing you said, though, and I want to build on this, right? You talked about the brand piece and the company you're working with right now, in that everything is a brand. I think a lot of people listening may hear branding and marketing and assume we're talking about logos and ads and, catchphrases and, messages, right? The words that we use on our communications. But you said everything is branding. I want you to elaborate a little bit more on that.
Sure. So for me, branding is it starts with your vision for your business, or vision for whatever you're going to do, whatever activity you're going to do. The vision is the foundation of your brand. And what's going to spring out of that vision? So I have a vision, let's say, so the vision for my business, and it's idealistic, and visions should be, well, they don't have to be idealistic, but they should be aspirational. The vision for my business is to improve the world one relationship at a time. I really want to make a difference in the world, and I do that through marketing. That's the channel through which I do it. So I have that vision. So it affects how I hire people. It affects how I interact with them. It affects how I treat my clients. It affects how I even treat the mailman. And I'm not trying to say I'm a better person than anybody, but it just happens to be the thing that I'm after. Like Steve Jobs wanted to, help people have an easier way to use technology. Henry Ford wanted to help a growing nation get where it had to go. I mean, so he had a vision, and everything he did was guided by that vision, whether it's a business plan, whether it's hiring people, whether it's marketing and communications, whether it's where to invest, where to buy, how to pay your employees. He was the first guy to pay $5 a week, which was back, I guess, when that was mind blowing when that happened. But he was guided by a vision, said, in order for me to make this happen, I have to put these things into place. So for me, branding, like you said, a logo or a website, those things are extensions or expressions of your brand. But they have to come out of your vision. If you say, if I say to somebody, well, why does your logo look like that? And they say, I don't know, I thought it looked cool. I'm like, well, is your vision about looking cool? Okay, maybe it is. No. What we want to be the best plumbers in town. Okay, well then let's understand what that means. And so your logo and your website and your brochure and the name of your company should all spring from you wanting to be the best. The people that you hire should spring from you wanting to be the best. So brand is the underlying principle in my mind of everything you do. And talking to people, you might say, oh, I don't have a brand, I don't have a vision. I guarantee you, anybody who's doing business, in a business, starting an organization, something like that, they have a vision. They might not be able to articulate it or define it or help share it to the world. That's what we do. as branding professionals, but everybody has a vision. It's just a matter of like refining and boiling it down. You boil a pot of water, you get down to the bottom, and like you've got the meat down there. Like that's what it takes to get to the vision. But it's there. I guarantee you. We work with people. We do branding exercises, and people are like, I don't know what we're going to get out of this. I have no answers for this. And nobody's ever said at the end of like a 2 or 3 hour session that, oh, that was a complete waste of time. They're like, that was such good information. I never knew that's what I was thinking, or I never knew how to articulate that. That's your brand. Everything comes right out of that thing.
Man, listen, I just golden nuggets. And you said a piece that I want to make sure people hear, because I think it's the really just so important. This isn't just about the creative. Those are expressions of the brand, but who you hire, how you hire, your process, your systems, your everything that you do as an organization is a reflection of the brand. Because whether or not you think you have a brand, it's really about what other people see. And if you want to be known as the best plumbers in town, well, what does it take to be the best plumbers in town? You need to be on time. You need to be on budget. You need to do quality work. Like, those are the things.
Call people back. Call people.
You need to call people back. You need to let them know, hey, sorry, we're busy. Just let us know you can't do it. But those are the things to be the best plumbers in town, right? And everything you do, your company ethos has to reflect that. It's not just about make a cool logo. It's not just about best plumbers in town. It's about actually living and breathing it. And I think that's the important thing. This may be heavy. If this is a hobby for you, I get it. This is way too much work. You're not trying to do all of that. But if you are serious about building a business, even if you have a side business, even if you have something else you enjoy doing that's not real estate related, that point of clarity can allow you to really thrive. Maybe you want to drill down. Maybe you don't want to be the best plumber in town, but you want to be the best plumber in your subdivision, right? So you don't have to leave or go very far. Okay, well, what does it take to be the best plumber in the subdivision? So the point is, just take a little bit of time. That clarity will allow you to go so much deeper with your business and to align your team. Going back to alignment of interest, it's not just about your clients or your investors, but your other key stakeholders. If you have other partners, investors, other vendors, it's helpful for them to know what your expectations are. And this is one of those ways to get everybody on the same page. So I really think what you talked about was really key. And it aligned a lot with what my experience was in corporate America and the success we were able to have with the brands I worked on, because we did spend a lot of time gaining clarity and having tough strategic conversations like this. And for someone on the outside looking in, they might have looked at us like we were crazy, because we would spend 6 months, talking about the brand and where we were headed and all this kind of stuff before we worked on one single ad. But all of that was necessary to come out with the vision so you could actually have success. And I think this is really important stuff. I want to move forward a little bit, because we could stay in this heady space all day, in my opinion, but I want to talk about, where creativity kind of hits the road a little bit. And a lot of people right now are looking at the different mediums that are out there, right? We've got email marketing. We got social media. I mean, we got from social media, we got Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, you got YouTube, man, we got Clubhouse now. We got, TikTok. I mean, there's so many things. Like, how do you figure out where you start, no matter what brand or your company? How do you even go about it? If you don't have the brand or the platform, the marketing channels today, how do you figure out where to start?
Yeah. So the off the cuff answer is start where your customers are. So if you have limited budget, and I bet everybody who's listening probably has a limited budget or effort or time, because nothing's infinite in this world, right? So you start by understanding where your customers are. And how do you do that? Well, first of all, figure out who your customers are. How do you figure that out? Figure out what you're offering and what you're really good at doing. You figure out what you're really good at doing, and then you figure out who has that need. Whose problem can you solve? Those are the people who will hire you. Where are they? So if you're a B2B B2B products or service provider, you're probably going to think about starting on LinkedIn. If you're that plumber who wants to be the best plumber in his subdivision, you're probably going to start on Facebook, because I guarantee you there are people who are there. You might also do some Google AdWords. but like Facebook would be the first place you start. If you wanted to reach people only in your community, I would say Twitter's not the place you're going to start, because Twitter doesn't feel geographically located, whereas Facebook, those connections are friends and neighbors, family. Of course, they're spread out because we have friends everywhere. But, like my neighbors and I are friends on Facebook, right? So if I'm looking for a plumber, if I recommend a plumber, say, hey, Johnny the plumber that does a fantastic job, my neighbors are going to see that. And that plumber works here. He doesn't work 1,000 miles away from here.
No, great tips there. And to your point, just to recap it, you said, start where your customers are. If you don't know who your customers are, figure out, who your customers are. And then you want to figure out what you're actually good at. What are you good at? And who has that problem? How can you solve them? I think that's a great way to go back, because it's easy to get caught up in the new trend. I have people tell me, oh, you should get on TikTok. Oh, you should get on Clubhouse. And I started a TikTok account. I have a Clubhouse account, and I don't like the platforms. Let me say it differently, because that's not really fair. I see the value in the platform. It doesn't fit my personality and the way I enjoy spending my time. With that said, that doesn't mean that as a business, I shouldn't be on there. I'm just saying I don't get a lot of pleasure being on those platforms. For people who are like that, and I know some folks who don't have any social media, but if you have a business, but you don't really enjoy being on social media, what would you say to a client like that as an entrepreneur, and they recognize that, hey, maybe my clients or my customers live here, but I don't really enjoy spending time on social media?
That's fair. So in order for something to work, you need to have either consistency of it, right? So that means you're going to have to do it, or you're going to have to pay somebody to do it for you. And if you don't feel comfortable with social media or broadcast, like TV advertising, radio, like if those things they don't either fit like your need, your budget, or your preference, you're going to have to figure out something to do. The secret that I tell people is that nobody actually needs marketing or branding if you're selling to your friends and your family. If you want to sell or do business with anybody other than your friends and your family, you're going to need some sort of marketing. It's just, that's the way it works. But and something that we have sort of discounted in the era of social media or digital media in general is the power of like face-to-face connection. And like right now with COVID and everything, it's really hard to have that face-to-face connection. But businesses like the plumber we talked about can be incredibly active in his community. He can post his business card at like the barbershop, at the hardware store, places like that. He can sponsor a little league team. He can find the association of realtors in his neck of the woods and sponsor like their lunch. And maybe he gets up there and says like a few words about himself and like who he serves, things like that. But you have to find something that you're comfortable with, but you have to find something, like, because if you want to grow, if you want to be a productive business, you're going to need to interact with customers, people. You have to find where they are. They're not going to come to you. There's so much competition. No matter what you do, there is an incredible amount of competition. And so you are going to need to generate awareness for yourself. You have to find a way to differentiate yourself just so people can find you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the bottom line is, hey, you may not want to be on social media, and you don't have to, but you better find a way to stand out and connect with your audience. And the more local you are, the easier it may be to do some in-person things. But if you need to reach kind of a national audience or even international, you got to find some ways to leverage technology. So there might be platforms that are more natural for you. Figure out what those are, but you have to show up, and you've got to find a way to do that, unless you're trying to grow only with friends and family. And referrals are great too, right? If you can get referrals, that helps. But again, if you want to grow your business, you're going to need to find some level of marketing to do that.
Yep. Absolutely. You find your path. Like Google has a lot of different platforms. I mean, that if you talk about like international, national reach, but there are platforms for everything. But you got to do something.
Yeah, I love it. I want to go back to investing, right? I know we kind of started there. You've got some active stuff. You do some passive stuff. Tell me a little bit more about kind of your current portfolio and what kind of deals are you looking for today?
Yeah. So I started with a single family home that was my first investment property. After college, I was still living at home, and I bought this rental property, and it was under the advice of my mom, who owned a restaurant. And she was like, I don't want to work in the restaurant my whole life. I'm going to buy some investment, some real estate. I'm like, okay, whatever. I didn't understand it. And then after, she's like, look how this works. It's really simple. Like, the rent is so much more than, is X amount more than all of your expenses. It works. Do it. And so I bought a property, and then eventually, fast forward, a number of years, my brother and I had a portfolio of 6 multifamily singles and like doubles, and we've been selling those off just because the market's really good. But here in Massachusetts, I still have a 6-unit building that I own myself, and I'm looking for things in like the 25-unit range. Not necessarily here in the Northeast, because things are expensive. But I'm looking in Southeast Georgia, outside of Atlanta. I did my own market analysis, and I said, "Ooh, these are the markets that are good for me with the vision that I have. Like the metrics I need to hit." So I'm looking to be part of syndications, and there are plenty of syndications. Eventually, I'd like to manage a syndication. I'd like to run one myself. So I'm always looking to like partner with. My dream would be to find a syndicator who he and I have he or she have the same vision, the same alignment of interests, and for them to say, I really need somebody to help me with the marketing and branding, and I'd like to take them on as a GP or a limited partner or something like that. I'm like, because I want to learn more about that, and so I think that might be a good way to do it. So that's what I'm looking for.
No, that's awesome. And listen, I mean, like we said, starting out, I know that there are a lot of folks who are looking for help with their marketing, right? Trying to figure out the branding. And as we stated, any business really comes down to marketing, and the marketing can be word of mouth. It could just be as simple as, getting great referrals for your business, right? It doesn't have to be ridiculously complex with, a 10-page, ethos statement and manifesto. It could just be simply, hey, I got a bunch of referrals. With that said, you got to have something. And as it gets more and more competitive, you're going to need to find an edge, and marketing is one of the ways to do that. So I hope listeners are paying attention and taking these words to heart, and will follow up and reach out about some of the services you offer to help them get more in tune with their own brand and how they can reach out to find more deals, to do a better job working with their clients, which are our residents, as well as the investors that they're looking to grow with. For some folks who want to learn more, maybe check out a little bit more about what you have with your agency. What's the best way for them to reach out?
So they could find us on our website. It's trustdeepagency.com. It's one word, Trust Deep Agency. And there are different branding packages we have for, more established companies, but also like what we call like a brand accelerator, which, like you said, it's not like this complex thing. It's easy enough that we could take care of it. We could do it in a day. Like you'd have results the next day, but it's a collaborative process. But on our website, there are also a lot of videos that are geared toward entrepreneurs and real estate investors that we make. Also a lot of blog posts, but also people in other industries as well. But I love real estate, so I make a lot of content for those guys, and I post it on our site.
No, I love it. Let's move on to our bullseye round. You ready?
Okay, let's do it.
Give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
It hasn't set me up yet, but there's this thing that I keep talking about I talk about this to myself. It's respecting time. It's like, and what does that mean? It's like, I can look back and say, if I was going to make the decision anyway, I just took too long to make it. I was going to sell that property anyway, and I just held on to it for too long, or whatever it might be. So it's respecting time. So I'm always trying to like understand that I've only got so much time, right? It's like in an hourglass. It's like one's gone, it's gone, So I'm trying to understand that like I need to make things happen, like decide what's important and then make those things happen, not mull things over. So that's I don't know if I'm answering your question exactly, but like I know that if I wait too long to make a decision, I'm just wasting time and opportunity that I'll never get back.
Yep. Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Ooh, a digital or mobile resource. Like, you mean like something like LinkedIn or?
Yeah, an app, or, if you use Trello or Monday or something like that.
I'll tell you, every time I raise rents on my tenants, I use Rentometer. And I give them a detailed printout of rents in the area. Because I always say, I said, I would love for you guys to stay forever. I understand if you can't. I have to raise the rent to this amount, and here's what rents are in the area. And I know that I'm in the ballpark of like, where things are. So I show them. I'm very upfront, and it's part of my business thing, right? I want to be open and transparent and build trust. So I say to them, I have to raise it to this. In here, this is what it's like in the neighborhood or in the city. So I think it's a fabulous tool. I use it on my phone, which I'm pointing to over here, which you can't see. But yeah.
I think it goes back to our point earlier about understanding the customers, right? Putting yourself in their shoes and trying to make it easy for them to make a decision and justify the rental increase. So I appreciate that. Yeah. Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
All right. There's a book called Further Faster, and I think the author's name is Bill Flynn. So this is about, the thing I was talking about, like not using time wisely and missing opportunities. The book helps you understand what stuff to focus on and what stuff to put aside, and how to take that stuff that's important and accelerate the growth of that. And it's an incredible book. Yeah, Further Faster.
Give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
A daily habit is I think through my long-term vision, like where I want to be in 15 years. Hope maybe 10 years would be better, but 15 years. I think I literally like visualize this, like I'm like meditating. I think about being there, and it's just something I have a coach, mentor who I work with, and he said, start your day with this, and it really helps me, because like when things go south and when things get difficult, it's like I go back to that and say, that's what I'm doing this for. Of course, I'm doing this for my family too, but they're in that vision, right? My kids, my wife, but like getting this thing straight first helps a lot of stuff in life.
Yeah. What's one thing you know now that you wish you knew when you were starting out?
Buy more houses, take more chances. I played it way too safe for so long, but I saw people around me, having great success, and I said, I bet I can do this with some determination, and if I, some hard work, I can achieve the same thing. So I'd say to anybody who's starting out, go, run, do it.
What are you curious about right now?
What am I curious about? I'm always curious about people. I'm always curious about how people think, and the interactions that we have together, how we relate to each other as people. And that's what got me into advertising in the first place. I think I tend to have a good understanding of how people think and their needs, and it's like an interesting subject for me. Like some people like to take things apart, mechanical things or whatever. Some people paint. I like to understand how people work, and it's kind of annoying though, for like my wife, and like I'm always asking questions like, why are you doing that, or why are you thinking like, and she's tired of being a test subject.
All right. On a lighter note, I know that you are in Sudbury, right? So kind of in the Boston northeast market. Yeah. Give me the best place to grab a bite. I know you got a lot of options there.
Oh yeah, so I like sushi is my go-to meal. I love it. There's a restaurant in town called Fugakyu. I don't think I could spell it, but it's
say it again.
Fugakyu.
All right.
It sounds like something else, but
it does.
Yeah. But I think it's like FUG. If somebody starts looking for sushi Boston FUG, I think there are a couple of Fugakyus in the area. But I love that place.
Awesome, man. We'll certainly have to put that on the list, and I'll reach out to some other Boston people. Maybe they can spell it for me, help us out. Well, listen, I really enjoyed our conversation. You've got a very similar background to where I was at as far as the marketing and branding. And I love the fact you're also in real estate and kind of look at your portfolio and recognize that there's opportunities to grow. You said a couple of things I think really stand out. So you talked about really the trust deep approach, and making sure that we are building relationships with customers, clients, investors, where it's at the lowest level, right? We're at the gut level of trust, where people know that we have those four things: the credibility, the track record, the empathy, and the alignment of interest. And you also talked about branding and how branding is really deeper than just the logos, the colors, and the words. It's really about the ethos of who you are as an entity, right? Your company, your business, the values that you hold, and how that permeates itself in everything that you do, not just the visual expressions of your company. So I really appreciate the way you articulated that. I think it helps us all get some clarity to what it is we're striving for and how the most successful brands and companies in the world get there, because they have that clarity, they have that alignment of interest, and they know exactly what it is that they're trying to convey. So the more we can get clear on our own businesses, the easier and more success we're going to have. For those folks who want to reach out, learn more about you, learn more about your agency, give us the contact information one more time.
Yep, it's trustdeepagency.com, Trust Deep Agency.
Listen, really fun talking to you, Stace. I hope you have a great day, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
You too. Take care.